Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Q&A for the WTIU documentary, Beautiful by Design, the Indiana University Bloomington Campus. My name is Spencer Bowman, and today's IU Day, so we are especially excited to share this film about IU's historic campus today. And now that we've all had the chance to watch it, we're very excited to have invited the two producers of the film to talk about the making of the documentary and what they learned about IU in the process. So we're joined now by Suzanne Schwibs and Justin Crossley. Thank you both for being here.
Hi, thanks for having
Hi,
me.
my pleasure.
Yeah. So I kind of want to start at the beginning. How did this idea initially come about, and what were your goals when you set out to make this film?
Okay, I'll start because I was in at the very beginning and then Justin joined a little bit later. I think it was an idea that came out of the office, the Vice President of Engagement, and they have a production group, Creative Services, that does a lot of stuff for them, but they do primarily short form. So they approach radio TV to because we have experience with long form programs, and this is definitely a long form program. And specifically, they reached out to a writer, a fabulous writer I've worked with before, Tom Rosnowski, and to me. And so Tom was involved in the writing of it. He's the co-writer of it. But then when it came to the actual execution of the project, that was about the time when I moved to the media school to teach full time. And so we asked Justin if he would be willing to join the team of actually producing and filming and editing the program. So now I'm going to kick it over to Justin. You can talk a little bit about how he got into it and what he saw in it, and then we can talk about what we were looking for.
Mhm.
Yeah. For me, I think I came in maybe I don't know if it was a full year into the project or maybe close to that. But I came in strictly. I think before I was kind of marked to be definitely videographer on it a little bit and maybe some editing, and then it evolved into so much more. And it was a beautiful opportunity to work with Suzanne, who is a great colleague and mentor through all the years I was there at WTIU. And it was a really beautiful opportunity for me also to sort of create this love letter for the university that I grew up upon. So it was a great opportunity to sort of see and tell the story of Indiana University.
Yeah, we both have the pleasure of having been students here. So we bring that perspective too. And yeah, I was very happy to work with Justin, who I'd worked with on a couple other projects before. So we were very resonated with each other, so to speak. But yeah, I think, when it comes to the goals, I mean, everybody knows that this campus is beautiful. So we know that wasn't a really hard, difficult thing to express, because all you have to do is turn on your cameras and there it is, a beautiful campus. But there's more behind the beautiful exterior. So that's part of the things that we were trying to get at.
Yeah. Well, you talk about like wanting to go deeper about the beauty of IU, and you guys talk to so many interesting subjects, and you go to interesting places, and you explore topics we maybe wouldn't expect. Is there one memorable, or is there one certain memory that sticks with you now? Years after
Uh-huh.
filming it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think because we both were students here, there's a sort of it's always at a sort of interesting moment in your life when you start defining who you will be and what you will do. Amazingly, that I would think of that as a sort of journey of discovery.
Hmm.
And I think this sort of, if you want to think of it as a visual metaphor, the journey of discovery is sort of built into the campus, where you'll move along and you turn a corner and something amazing hits you, just as you're intersecting with so many different people, and you'll go ways that you weren't imagining, but that still fit with who you are. My favorite memories, I suppose, in terms of discovering stuff like this is we worked with the oral history project of IU, and they connected us. I think it was Kristen Lehman
Hmm.
and Barbara Truesdell, and we worked with them, and they connected us with this 90-year-old alum of Indiana University, who came to Indiana in the 1941, I believe. I mean,
Wow.
ages ago.
Yeah.
And that was just a thrill to talk to her, to actually speak to someone who had been there and who lived in the quadrangle where Memorial Hall is now, which now they've returned to dormitories. It was started, that whole area was started as being a dormitory section, and then it became offices. And only recently the trustees decided to return it back to the way it was originally conceived. Well, those were built when she was a student. I mean, right before she became a student here, and she lived there at least for a while until the soldiers were stationed there. So that was a lovely experience. Justin, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think really the things that touched me, about the memories that I had then, really just, I think we had a really great crew at times of individuals and people and talented people at DIU. Well, there's videographers like, Jason Pear and Chris Dodge, and we brought our old friend Alt back, and Henry Malone, who was a great asset to the entire project. It was just really a great time where I have really memorable moments working with, Suzanne's creativity guiding us the way, me putting my input as much as I could through different, things that I could see visually, how we could, make things work. But really, it took the crew to sort of bring all those things together, and it was really great to work with that for me. The other memory that really, for me, I didn't have a lot of gaps when I wasn't at IU for about nearly almost 20 years. It's from student to being able to work at different departments to then the job at TIU to when we were working on that documentary. But I never really fully explored university. This gave me an opportunity to really work and look through with a creative eye and a careful eye through every corridor, every hallway, every building that we had, to really appreciate the continuity that there was on the campus.
I would add to that too, the generosity of the staff we worked with, and not just the radio TV staff, but the staff all across the university.
Absolutely.
The support staff that took, those were special moments for me. They took me on the roofs, which, normally you can't get to.
Right.
And just worked with us. Timothy, who went up the clock tower and showed us the clock tower, and then actually acted, he did what he would do, and appeared for us on camera. And those were just precious moments. Mike Gervin and the landscaping folks, Bruce Kavanaugh, all they were just so generous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you both talk about, well, one, you were both students here, so you have a familiarity with the campus, and you've continued to work here. But were there any surprising discoveries or things that you encountered during your research and filming that were surprising, or maybe even like changed your perspective on the university?
Well, I had never been in a clock tower.
Yeah.
That was wonderful to actually go past the bells, all the
Yeah.
way up there. That was wonderful. The surprising thing is, because when you experience a campus as a student, you kind of just experience it, and you love the little corners, and you love what it does, and the fact that it's this wonderful balance of rectangular buildings and then this natural stuff that's in it. I think what surprised me was that was actually so much built into the design of the campus. The woodland campus is something, well, I'm from Europe, we love the woods. But it's something that's built into the campus, and it very deliberately was made that way. I think that would be sort of a surprise.
Yeah, for sure.
One doesn't tend to be, because it's so known for being beautiful, one doesn't tend to be surprised so much by the beauty, but by the fact that that is so purposefully built in, that you have these sort of islands of tranquility, that let you be, a humanist thinking about the world and things like that. And you have to pass by through trees and little groves and things like that. And I think on a very subconscious level that works on you. And I was just really taken by the fact that that's such a deliberate, purposeful thing.
Well, especially what you said about how, it is a metaphor for a journey of discovery. I think that's like an amazing way of looking at our campus, because you truly do just turn a corner, and some, even being here for many years, you can still discover something you never saw before. What about you, Justin? Any surprises?
It kind of like, as you just mentioned, Spencer, I think I was very much surprised on how many years I had spent upon the campus.
Mhm.
but never really took the time to notice some of the smaller details. I mean, I think we had a moment in the documentary where we just spent time looking at the different artist carvings within the limestone on the different buildings.
Yeah.
You can go by it day by day and never take time to notice it, but then you notice a student studying, or a small devil, or or initials or something like that carved into a building that you just never, if you take a second look, would see. And now I think even after leaving IU, had more opportunities to visit other college campuses across America. And you see that difference at IU, that I just, the continuity over the span of 200 years to keep the limestone architecture, to make sure that this building is fitting within the setting of the environment of which it's in, the Woodlawn campus. It's beautiful. It's something that you can take for granted, but I think we had the unique opportunity to really spend time to sort of meditate on that for over the course of years, to sort of bring that to the audience that viewed it.
Well, you kind of said earlier, Suzanne, that the campus is beautiful, so you can just turn your camera on and it looks beautiful, right? But some of the most amazing scenes for me um, are these kind of experiential moments, like where first we have a jazz band performing around campus, and later we have dancers, performing in one of the buildings. And I found those really striking when I watched the documentary, and I'm curious, like, why include that?
Yeah, I suppose one of them was just to actually sort of communicate that feeling
Hmm.
of being in a particular space. And I spent a lot of time in Valentine Hall when I was a student. And to me, Valentine Hall, people often refer to it as an ugly building, but actually that courtyard is really beautiful.
Oh yeah.
It has a beautiful beech tree in it, and it has a sort of an aura. And to me, it always meant, because it's a very international building, because that's where all of the international offices were in. And so you would just intersect with students from all walks of life and all countries and so forth. So I wanted to get that feeling of that, and with the dance as well. The idea that you can't, I mean, you're not going to walk around the corner and see a jazz band there, but
Right.
you do discover things, and this sort of accidental, that you meander around, you ride your bicycle, and boom, there's something really interesting, and you stop and you watch it. So I want to get at that feeling. With the dance, there was also a really practical consideration, because we couldn't show everything, and
Mhm.
this was a sort of a way to have a montage, I suppose, of these different amazing buildings. But when you're in a building, you're also traversing space, and there's no more beautiful way to traverse space than actually to dance. So there was a little bit of that in there as well. There used to be a group on campus that would do parkour, and they would jump. And originally, I put that as a scene in there.
Oh
This
yeah.
sort of kinetic way of feeling. There's this whole thing about the 7 ways of learning and education. Um, and only part of it is the mind. The other part is the heart and the soul and the body. You can know things by moving.
Yeah. No, I think it absolutely accomplishes that. Like, like there are many different ways of looking at the university, not just the historical lens, not just the factual lens, like this experiential thing. It's really striking to watch.
And
Um,
we had such fun doing it, because Justin is, aside from being a good producer, he's also such a wonderful director of photography. So
yeah. Yeah, and it looks amazing. I'm curious, having seen the campus, gotten so many unique perspectives and seen things that, most people never get to see. What do you think makes IU's campus so unique, compared to other universities?
I remember Terry Claypax, when we were interviewing him, he said that uh, I think from one of the first memories and moments that he stepped up on the campus, it feels like what a university is supposed to be. And I think that is true of IU in so many ways, that it's been a really eye-opening experience to see the intentionality and the mindfulness that sort of went into the construction and structure of IU. But like Suzanne said, though it is structured and intentional that way, it doesn't feel regimented. Bring it back to like what Suzanne was saying about your experience at IU. Everybody is becoming, in that moment of their life. When you're out of university, you're becoming what you want to be, becoming more of you And I think that's also true about the university, because like when I come back now, being away from it for almost a year now because of COVID and all other things, um, I'm seeing it becoming more and more like there's new structures, new buildings, there's a new clock tower that's in the middle of, there's things that the university itself is also to becoming, and it's always evolving. But with that transition, um, it, it's extremely beautiful to see how the continuity stays flowing throughout, the decades and the ages that it has.
Well, you mentioned the pandemic, and I think and change, I mean, the biggest change of all, a lot of us haven't been in the spaces we used to occupy for over a year now. And, this film obviously deals a lot with the relationship between individual and space, the space they're in. Do you think that the pandemic changes our perspective? Like, is your own perspective changed about IU or just any space in general now?
Yeah, I hadn't been to, I mean, probably since March last year, I would only go to campus to get to, to my office. And that was just like 3 or 4 times at most to get something or bring
Yeah.
something. And I haven't really taken much time until recently. And there was one time, I think it was like one of those first Thursdays. And I went and I just really enjoyed the activity and being able to go. And of course it was, people were masked and all this, and there were only so many things going on, but it was still such a pleasant thing. So yeah, and I have noticed too that it has changed.
Yeah. What about you, Justin? Has your perspective changed in the last year?
Yeah, I mean, so not too long after finishing the documentary, I left the university, and I think, like what you said, being apart from and like I said, I was there for like nearly 20 years with not many breaks. Being apart from it, I think there's really distinctively, um, I think Suzanne had a quote at some point in time, maybe in the documentary itself, about this, but um, the environment in which you work, the environment in which you spend most of your time is really important to um, the creativity and all the things that you experience. For me, being separate from the university, I used to like walk in every day and walk past Showalter Fountain to be able to go to work and go to the Union and experience the different cultures and people that you see there, to the library. They were just a short area away. Though I do work upon sort of a beautiful space now, my office itself is in a very small housing unit outside of the beautiful space. I think that just those things make a difference. Being on the campus of Indiana University, even if you're doing the distance learning, can be detrimental to your creativity. Being upon that space that is so, inspiring and beautiful, I think really speaks to your soul, speaks to your heart. It allows you to then invoke some of those same things that other creators that created that space maybe touched upon when they were doing it, that also then inspire you for your own work.
And there is so much amazing work going on at the university. I mean, we collaborated with artists like Liz Shea, who did the choreography for the dancing, and Larry Groupé, the composer, film composer.
Yes.
So I mean, it's just that's one of the strengths too, which isn't really built into the landscape, but in a way it is as well. And that's just wonderful. I think it inspires lots of different people, and then you have these wonderful opportunities to collaborate, which I always love.
Well, I think everything you said is it rings so true to me. And I think viewing the documentary now, especially, it hits a certain level. And I think I just have a greater appreciation, for the campus and for the places we get to be. And, looking
Thank
forward to
you.
being back there. And I think it's just so great to watch it now. I think I just have one last question before we wrap it up, and it's an easy one. What is your favorite place on IU's campus? If you are on campus, what's a favorite place to be, and why?
That may be an easy question, but maybe not an easy answer,
Sure.
because there are so many spots. But if I had to be pinned down, well, I love the courtyard in Valentine Hall, and I love the beech trees. I love the sculpture, Veritas Filia Tempori, and then I love the little the area where the dorms used to originally build, Sycamore Hall, Goodbody Hall. That's just an amazing place because, you know, you walk through that little archway, not that little, the archway of Memorial Hall, and your sound just shifts because you go through that tunnel. So there's a little bit of echo, and then you emerge into this lovely little courtyard. So that's a beautiful spot. If I had to put my fingers on it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Justin?
Like Suzanne said, it's not an easy answer. I think our documentary focused a lot about the Woodlawn campus and the exterior spaces. But for years, we had this on our own notes as like IU architecture. That was the name of the project before it got fully titled. And so there was a lot of, you know, almost, you know, like a midway point where I was like, okay, we're doing a lot of the exterior, but none of the interiors. And maybe people were thinking they might see that. I don't know. But I think we came about in a creative way that we focused in on the interior spaces for the interviews. And distinctively, we chose to shoot them wide. Those interior spaces where we shot the interviews became places that personally for me, I fell in love with. I remember going to scout those locations and finding what could be the right spot to sort of house the individual that we're looking at. Suzanne chose some really great spaces. I found a few really nice spaces for a couple of them. And distinctively, they became some of my favorite spaces.
Yeah, that's a good point. The interior spaces should not be underestimated.
Right. And the wide shots of those interviews are really beautiful. And like, I think the Bryan room, especially, I think you interviewed Jim Capshaw and a few other people there. And that room is really amazing to see. And not a lot of people see it because it's, you know, hidden away.
Got to take a trekking journey up there to get.
Yeah, for sure.
I know you filmed in there, Spencer.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's a very photogenic room.
It really is. It's almost like you're walking onto a movie set of some, well, I mean, it's very much IU architecture, but you don't expect it to look like a sort of a aristocratic parlor, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you both for being a part of this. I think it's so great to talk and learn more about how this documentary was made and just what your experiences were, you know, making it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.